Alstroemeria, it's a big word, but the good news is it's seen in many bouquets because it's a long-lasting flower. And so I want you to be able to make it in paper and keep it ever more as a memory. The most unusual thing of the Alstroemeria are the markings. The smaller petals, which are on the inside, have very unique freckles or striations. So coloring is going to be a big part of making this flower. So we come here using our non-stick mat because we don't want to get any chalk or anything on our good mat. I'm going to take the pan pastels, and here's a close-up of what this is going to appear. I'm going to start with the lighter color, which is the white, and just start shading at that tip there to really give it some highlight on the petal. The next thing is the pink, and again with the I'm going to brush up on it and stroke into the white, but not necessarily cover it up. I just want to shade into it. So we've got this one. Let's go to the little one because that's the most unique one. I'm going to add a little bit of the pink to the edges to highlight the area. And then I'm going to go back and just shade some of that white in the center to show up the little freckles or striations. As it sets into the flower, if you can look into there and you see the coloring of the yellow inside, and then on the larger leaves, I've even tipped a little bit of yellow to add some interest because these are such a beautiful flower to put in your bouquet. And I set that one aside. And so if we take the pan pastels, and I'm going to just tip the stem end. And then on the larger petal, like I've done here, I'm going to tip the outer petal. Okay, before we move it over to the molding pad, here's what the finished smaller petal that is on the inside looks like. So I've done some shading, and I'm going to use a Copic marker because it doesn't bleed onto the pan pastels. And I'm going to add those little striation marks that you see on the inner petals. Now we can bring in our molding pad, and we'll add those two petals right on top of it. And we'll do some shaping. Now I'm going to use the loop tool on that. And there's two different sizes. This is the 3mm, and on the large petal, I'm going to shape it to start to have some movement to it and shape. But this is a smaller petal, so I'm going to switch to the smaller loop tool and also shape it. Now if you want to add a little bit more distinction to it, let's use our leaf pad because they do have some character lines, and I'll use my leaf tool, and simply hold your petal just ever so slightly, and I'm dragging the lines down just so you get some character lines into your petals. Now I've done that on all the small ones, which there's 3 large and 3 inner petals, the smaller ones, that make up this flower. After the shaping, you're going to do some pinching and bending. The nice thing about these tools are the point to this tweezer, so I can bend right around the tip and get a really nice bend to it. You can either leave it into there or release it and hold it, and then I'm going to take my medium ball stylus and just add a little curve to the tip of that, and that shapes that petal very nicely. I'm going to do the same with the large one, and again just pinching around the base or the stem end, and because this is a little more rounded, I'll actually take that and bend the edge using that tool, and so it gives it that nice flowing shape that the petal has. Now if we bring the non-stick pad into play again, I'm going to, the calyx where they set on, I'm going to stir it and get it to cup up, but I'm going to bring it over here so we can do our gluing. And as you can see on the petals here, I've added the 3 larger ones and smaller ones. And you can do that you can either use your tweezers or the leaf end and hold that calyx in place. It stabilizes it so it won't move around on you. I like to use my tweezers, and I'm going to hold it in place, Now I have a method I call dip and drag for my petals when I'm building a flower petal by petal. So I dip it into the glue, but I kind of drag it across so it doesn't get a big glump on there. And you just simply, we're going to put the larger petal on the outer side. And by rubbing it a little bit, I've gotten it to adhere. I'm going to continue on every other calyx until I've got 3 of them on. So there's your 3 outer petals. The inner petals are going to form the same way, but a little further in. I did that dip and drag, and now going on the opposite calyxes, or the calyx projection, I'm going to set that little petal right inside. Now if we move this and bring this over, you can see here, if this is better, you can see I've got the 3 larger petals, the 3 smaller. Now this can actually go into your flower pot to set, because that's what gives the form to the flower. As you can see, this one stands up nice because it is set while drying right there. And I can work on the leaves and the stamen. The stamen is a piece that we're going to roll up, but I'm going to first cut the filaments in half. And then I'm going to brush the glue right across that base. And I place it on my finger and I do a roll towards. And then you can seal it right up, twist it a couple of times, and that holds the stamen in place. Now the next thing I'm going to do is use some pollen. And this has a little darker shade to it, but the way you get the ends is just, I lightly dip. I mean, you could use a toothpick, but honestly, if you've got a light hand and you don't go too far in it, you can get a nice dip of glue on the end of it and then right into the color pollen that you want. Give it a shake, and there's your stamen. Hold on to the end with your tweezers and simply place it right in the center. And here's the finished one right here. And you've got a beautiful Alstroemeria to add to your garden of flowers. It could go right on into the wreath I'm making here and give you a really pretty centerpiece to look at. But we need leaves because no flower is complete without leaves. So let's put our leaves onto our molding pad, our leaf pad here. And using the leaf tool, I first need a stem line. So I'm going to drag it directly down. And then I'm going to turn it over. This is the right side, but I'm going to bend it in half. And then I'm going to use the bright green to accentuate that stem line. Move this out of the way. And you can see it if I put it on this mat, you can see the detail that the line makes there. If you want to add a few more striations, put it back. It doesn't get vein lines, but I do add some horizontal or vertical lines on either side before I pinch it. So I'm bringing it back up. This is the right side on the inside, remember that. Hold that pinch, and then again, you can tweak the end by bending it a little bit to add the leaf right into your flower. And that's the Alstroemeria, or as it's better known as the lily of the Incas.